Hey friends, welcome back to the Destination Baby and Kids YouTube channel. This is Gina. I am your host. I'm super excited to be here with you today to go over two fabulous single to double stroller options that are offered by Bugaboo. We are going to be talking about the Bugaboo Donkey versus the Kangaroo. So before we launch in, if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and share this video with someone if it makes sense. Sharing is caring. We definitely love that. And yeah, if it makes sense to like the video, go ahead and like it. The higher we grow our viewership, the easier it is for me to get these products to be able to review for you, which I love doing more than anything. So let's launch into two fabulous strollers by Bugaboo. It's the battle of the singles to doubles. It is the Donkey versus the Kangaroo. Okay, so we have a little different vantage point today. Hopefully you guys can see what's going on. But the khaki stroller on my right, your left, is going to be the Bugaboo Kangaroo. That retails for $11.99. And then the stroller that you see in the gray currently, but I am going to demonstrate it in some other color choices, that is going to be the Donkey. So the Donkey with the black frame, pretty fabulous, is going to be $14.99. There is one version of it that currently I think sells for $13.99 where it's a silver frame with the black fabric, but again, different colors have a little bit different pricing, but for the most part, you're going to be at that $14.99 price point for most of the colors that people pick. Okay, so they both have a 4-year warranty, which is really fabulous. And they both will work for newborn all the way through to 50 pounds in the seat that's included in the purchase price. So the way that I have these both set up right now is with Bassinet. So Bugaboo is a little confusing for some consumers because the strollers will come with the option to utilize the Bassinet from birth. And the way that it works is you have a seat frame that accommodates bassinet fabric or seat fabric. So you set it up however you're going to use it initially. Most people would choose to use the bassinet right away versus the stroller seat. So instead of putting the stroller seat fabric onto the stroller, they put the bassinet fabric onto that frame. They use that for 6 months, and then they move on to using the same frame, but with the seat fabric on it instead of the bassinet fabric on it. So luckily I've cheated both of these products and I have them set up ready to go both ways just to demonstrate, but I just want to make sure that I do point that out. It doesn't come with like a separate bassinet. It would come either working as a bassinet or as a seat, depending on how you set it up out of the box. So one thing that you're going to see over here is I have the Bugaboo stand set up with the Donkey seat sitting on it right now, which is pretty fabulous. But what I was going to explain is that if you, let's say, had the Donkey and you wanted to use this bassinet next to your bed, you could definitely do that. You would buy the stand and you would buy the correct corresponding clips. I have a whole video about this. It will link to the bottom. But you can certainly buy this. It is about $160, $165 with the correct clips. But this would make your Bugaboo bassinet able to go next to your bed for overnight sleeping. It is definitely overnight sleep capable. You just buy the bassinet, use the bassinet. It is so fabulous. Not the bassinet, excuse me, the stand and the clips. And then you can use your bassinet that's included in the purchase price of your stroller. Make that value for dollar stronger. Now, that same stand could also work with the Kangaroo bassinet. However, I would have to swap out the clips in order to demonstrate that. And you know, it's not difficult, but I have, like I said, a video about it, so if you want to see that, check that out. But you could take the same bassinet and pop it onto that stand. You would just use a different set of clips. Okay, very fabulous. And as you saw, the stand also works for the stroller seat as well. So, and that is true for both models, so very fabulous. Okay, now, once we're done using Bassinet, because Bassinet gives us that lie flat option for the first 6 months of using the product, we would then go ahead and switch over to using the stroller seat. So I will go ahead and take off the bassinet from both models and put the stroller seat on. Now, don't worry, I am going to get into the specifics of like the seat differences, the weight differences, the size differences, all of that good stuff. But first, in order to do that more meaningfully, it probably makes sense to put the seats on. Oh, and just to show you both, or not you both, to show my audience that both of these strollers work with car seats. So Kangaroo comes with the car seat adapters included in the purchase price, which is pretty fabulous. That'll work for a broad variety of car seats. I'm gonna grab this Peg Perego lounge and put it right on. My hair is in the way. Put it on, lock it on, good to go. Looks really nice. And then for the donkey, you buy the donkey mono adapter. So this is important because donkey does offer to be sold in different ways. Mono adapter means you're just using the car seat adapter on here with one kiddo at a time versus two. So we'll go ahead and put that on. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take a Pippa Air RX, and I'm gonna put that right on my donkey, no problem. So as you can see, Kangaroo car seat adapters included. With donkey, you would buy it separately and it would be $60, but they both work with a car seat. Now, this is something that I want to address immediately. So what's really interesting is that the donkey actually looks wider than the Kangaroo. And it is an optical illusion. The Kangaroo is actually a wider product, and the donkey and the Kangaroo are both 19 inches wide at the front. And then the rear of the strollers, it was pretty fascinating. Kangaroo is, it's a little wider. It is 24.5 inches wide at its wheelbase. And then the donkey at its widest is 23.75. So the donkey is just about 3/4 of an inch narrower than the Kangaroo. But again, it looks a little wider because the donkey handle is as wide as the wheelbase. Whereas with Kangaroo, it's more traditional, right? We've got a recessed handle and a wider wheelbase. So it is an optical illusion. Kangaroo is actually wider than donkey when we're talking about using it just for one kiddo. So that is something that we would want to point out. It's kind of fascinating. And then it's also shorter nose to tail to go with the donkey versus a Kangaroo. A Kangaroo is longer, as you can see. So the Kangaroo length is 34 inches long, and then the donkey length is going to be 30 inches long when they're set to their shortest. So something to be aware of there, because they do look kind of unusual. And donkey, as you can see, comes with like an extra tote bag here on the top portion. So that's really nice because your lower basket holds 22 pounds on the donkey, and then this top basket, which also has a zipper top, which is really cool. And it is a removable tote, so you can pop it off and like carry it wherever you want to go. But that will also hold the 22 pounds. So you're looking at a combined basket capacity on the donkey of 44 pounds. And then on Kangaroo, your basket capacity, which is down there at the bottom, that is going to be a fabulous 28.6 pounds. So nearly 30 pounds for the basket in the Kangaroo. But the donkey definitely holds more with 44 when you combine the lower basket with the top tote. So just something to be aware of. Okay, yeah, let's go back to putting the seats on them because that is something that we definitely wanted to see. So easy to do. We'll go ahead and remove the single car seats. So again, we have that option for bassinet from birth, or we have an option to use a car seat, which is always going to be sold separately from birth. I will remove the car seat adapters. And now let's pretend our kiddo is big enough to put directly into the stroller seat. I'm going to grab that stroller seat from before. Woo! For the donkey. So now you can see I've got an all black situation going here. When you buy this, your bassinet will not be a different color than your stroller seat. That is just something I did to confuse my viewers. No, it's just something that I have it set up that way so that my customers can see some different color options that are available. Okay, so I've got the baby in the Kangaroo. I'm gonna go ahead and put the canopy on. Now, canopy of course is included in the purchase price, but because I have to swap these pieces around to demonstrate for my customers, that's why you'll see me doing it here, putting the canopy on the stroller seat and the front bar just like that. So that looks cute. Got baby in there. I'm actually going to take the baby out because some people find the baby a little scary to look at, so we will take that away. Put baby in the crib. Now, we've got the strollers set up in single mode. Both of these strollers have the option for the seat to, of course, face the caregiver. So how does that look? The Donkey, as you can see, has memory buttons, meaning that I'm able to press them one at a time. With the Kangaroo, they're also memory buttons, so we're able to push them one at a time. And both of these strollers have that pop-off harness. So like when I took the baby out, the harness just popped away from the body. Both of them do a really nice job with the easy pop-out harness and the no rethread adjustment on the seat back. So that's something I usually talk about. Of course, both can caregiver face and both have complete recline when they are caregiver facing. Now again, because the seats have a dip in them, that wouldn't be appropriate for a newborn, which is why they include the bassinet in the purchase price. But again, we're given a seat option for later on, so kiddo can caregiver face. They both have an enormous sunshade. One thing that's nice about Donkey that you don't get, or excuse me, on Kangaroo that you don't get on Donkey is Kangaroo has an adjustable foot plate articulating. On the Donkey, it does not have an articulating foot plate, but both of them have a heel stirrup. So that's awesome. Kind of an important feature on a stroller. Donkey has a vent on the top, one gigantic vent, and Kangaroo has the same situation going on, one gigantic vent at the top. So they have the same ventilation, and I would argue a similar amount of sun coverage. So that's very important, and we do love that. Let's sit the seats up, turn kiddos back to be camera facing. Each seat here will hold 50 pounds. So you can start with like a new baby in the bassinet from birth, and then you would switch over to the stroller seat, typically at around 6 months of age. And as you can see, now we've got them for the two big kiddos. So the biggest difference that you might notice when you're looking at it is going to be that Donkey has a slightly narrower seat than Kangaroo, but let's check out the actual seat dimensions because I did write this down. The backrest height on Kangaroo is 20 inches. On Kangaroo is 20 inches. The backrest height on Donkey is also 20 inches. Your harness minimum is 9.75, goes up to 14.75 on the Kangaroo. On the Donkey, you're looking at 10.25 up to 16 inches for the harness minimum maximum. Our canopy clearance on the Kangaroo is 24.5, and then the canopy clearance on the Donkey is going to be 24 inches. So that's actually pretty darn good. For reference, the UPPAbaby Vista has the same canopy clearance, 24 inches. So I love that it's going to be great for the bigger, taller bodied kiddo. The seat width. So the Kangaroo seat is definitely wider. It's 12 inches wide. Your Donkey seat is 10.5 inches wide. So it is a narrower seat. The seat depth on the Donkey is also a little shorter. So you're at 8.5 inches, whereas on Kangaroo, you're at 10 inches of depth. The leg extension, which is the leg dropping down from the knee to the heel stirrup, on Donkey is 9.5 and on Kangaroo is 9. But then you do get that additional drop down all the way to the bottom, which is 17 inches. So for just like a single big kid, long legs, Kangaroo could theoretically be more accommodating, but at that point I think they would be done strolling, so it's sort of a moot point. Your depth for the crotch belt is 4 inches on Kangaroo. Donkey was surprisingly deep. It's about a 5-inch depth, which is great for that bigger bodied kiddo. They've got room to grow. The harnesses on both are that independent pop-off harness. They can be used as a 3-point or a 5-point, so that is fabulous. Handle heights. So they both have a really awesome option for short handle height. Not every stroller actually does a good job with a shorter parent. So both of these have an insanely great variety of heights. Your Kangaroo is 36.5 high, and then it goes up to 43.5 so it gets pretty tall. Your donkey is gonna be 34.5, so it's a little shorter to start, and then goes up to 42.25 for your tallest height, which is very clear. Now, the handle height adjustment on Kangaroo is one-handed. The handle height adjustment on Donkey is two. So Donkey does require a little bit more work in terms of changing those things, but it's not terribly difficult. But just some little differences between them. Your basket, we talked about the basket capacities. Your basket shelf on the Donkey is 16 by 22. Your basket shelf on the Kangaroo is 27 by 16. We talked about the capacity in terms of the weight, but your front versus back opening. So your front opening on your Kangaroo is 11 inches. So when we recline the seat back, what's this opening? That is 11 inches. And then on the back, you have a 10-inch opening for the basket. So it's pretty darn big. Donkey, the opening is 11.5, and then if you spin the stroller all the way around, you've got 9.5 on the back. So it's still a very large opening on the front or the back. They both have lockable front tires, which is great. As far as like a sandal-friendly brake, you definitely get that on Kangaroo. On Donkey, you don't really get that. You do have to be it's definitely a more rugged brake, so you would, yeah, not sandal friendly, just to sort of be aware. They both work with newborns with the Bassinet, which is like an included piece, so we covered that. Now, both of these strollers can work for one or for two children. So there are going to be some major differences here in how we talk about this, and I am going to cheat and tell you something that I'm not supposed to, but I don't really care. You guys are my fabulous audience, and you deserve to know everything, so we are going to talk about it. But let's show what happens now when you have one kid and then your new baby is coming. So let's say you already had that newborn, you had the bassinet. Now we're going to do a second kiddo. Let's say you want to do a bassinet and the big kid seat. Will both of these strollers accommodate that? Actually, yes, they will, and that is something that is very special. A lot of strollers will do a bassinet and a stroller seat, but they do it kind of poorly. Both of these options, I think, utilize bassinet with stroller seat quite well. Donkey, when you're ready to turn it into a two-kid stroller, telescopes out and becomes double wide, which is pretty sweet. And I do have a video just going over the Donkey. I have a video going over the Donkey for twins, so if you want to check that out, you're certainly welcome to. But this is just kind of showing this versus the Kangaroo. And when, so now we've got our big kid there. And we would then buy a second seat kit for this. This sounds very convoluted, but you would need that second seat kit in order to put a second seat and a bassinet on here at the same time. In order to do that, you would pay $360, and that would give you the pieces that you need in order to do what you see here, which is using the bassinet and the stroller seat simultaneously. And this is really cool because now big sibling can see little sibling and like look at the baby and think the baby is so cute. Now, if this terrifies you and you're like, I don't ever want to go to a double wide, that's terrifying to me. Keep in mind, this is only 29 inches wide, so it absolutely fits through standard doorway. But if that would be scary for you and you wouldn't want to go in that kind of a direction, this is where the Kangaroo could be pretty sweet. So Kangaroo has this option where when you're ready, you can turn it into a two-kid stroller. You take the piece that's on it and flip it around. And you're gonna then purchase a second seat that would go on the front. And that is gonna be $249. So it is definitely more cost-effective when you're ready to move into, ooh, where's the double kit? This might be the end of me. Oh no, here it is. Don't worry, gang. Don't have to restart, thank goodness. So we're gonna put our double kit right on the stroller. We'll put our second seat on the front. So now this is a whole separate second seat. It's a little bit smaller than the main seat. It only holds 40 pounds. Now again, when we do 2 seats on the donkey, each donkey seat would hold 50 pounds, but here the top seat position would hold the 50, and then the lower seat position would hold 40. And something else that's very cool is that if you wanted to do the bassinet on the top and the big kid seat on the bottom, you can do that with the Kangaroo. Now again, this would be like an entire fabric swap out on the frame. I'm just taking the canopy off so it doesn't look so strange, just to make it look a little nicer for the viewing audience. And again, these are pieces that you're not swapping like daily. This is just something that you would do. And then your front bar obviously would be on there too. So both of these strollers give you an option to do a bassinet parent facing and then maybe big kid forward facing. As you can see on Kangaroo, we're doing what is called a stadium seating scenario, where you've got the toddler sitting out in the front and then another child in the back towards you, where again, donkey, you're telescoping to go double wide. Now, just to kind of show as well, this is a very cool feature about Kangaroo. There's only one other stroller that does this, and to be honest, the Kangaroo is like significantly nicer than that stroller anyway. But you do buy, and I should have mentioned the bassinet newborn piece. This is 40 bucks. So if you want that bassinet to sit on the top with your toddler on the front, you can do that. But let's say you didn't want to deal with all of that, because that's just like a lot of stuff and you might not be into that. The car seat adapters that came with this stroller would just clip directly on, and now you could take your car seat and put it right here on your stroller. So that is a Maxi Cozy Perry that I put on there, just to kind of show you can do some different car seat options. But again, you've got your car seat on the top and your toddler seat on the front. And then again, if you didn't want to buy this full double kit from Bugaboo, and you wouldn't necessarily have to, I'm just going to put this over here so it stays neater as I talk about this to you guys, because again, it's like pretty sweet. Your car seat could go on the one side with the mono adapter that you already own, and then the stroller seat that came with it you could use with it right away. So unless you're desperate to use a bassinet on there with your new kiddo, you don't necessarily have to buy that double kit. So this is going to show, let's put Pippa on here. So as you can see, both of these have an option to do a car seat and a stroller seat simultaneously. Now, both obviously work with 2 stroller seats. I will be able to demonstrate it on Kangaroo. I don't have a second donkey seat just sitting waiting to go set up. But with donkey, the children can face caregiver out at the world, kiddos can face each other. So it's a very cool feature that the donkey has. Additionally, what Bugaboo would argue is that 2 children, putting them side by side, making the axle wider, this will actually be easier to push when you have 2 big kids in it versus a narrower axle with a bunch of weights stacked front to back. I will say that as far as this style, and typically I am not fond of stadium seating double strollers just in general, because usually they push so horribly with 2 kids that like it sort of kills the whole concept. But I will say with Kangaroo, it's probably my favorite option for this style because it still pushes so beautifully when you have weight in it with 2 kiddos. So again, both strollers have an option for 2 kids, but with Kangaroo, your top seat would hold the 50 pounds and your bottom seat would cut out at 40. And then with your donkey, obviously each seat would hold 50 pounds. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is that your double seat here on the Kangaroo is slightly smaller than the main seat. So for instance, your double seat is a 17.5-inch backrest. Your harness minimum is 11 inches up to 15 inches. The canopy clearance height is 23 versus 24 on like the Donkey, and then 24.5 on the big kid seat. It goes to 40 pounds. The width is 11.5, so again, still wider than the Donkey seat. The depth here is 8.5, which again is the same depth as the Donkey. And then the leg extension down here is 7.75. So a little bit shorter than what you would get on the second seat when you're using the Donkey, but that's because the Donkey has 2 identical seats. So let's talk about one other thing, because I will get asked about this, and so I want to make sure that I cover it. As far as like stuff they come with, they come pretty comparably equipped. Kangaroo comes with 1 car seat adapter. Donkey comes with no car seat adapter, but a rain shield. So again, both you'd want to buy whatever pieces you need when you're ready. One thing I do definitely want to show and really hammer home here is that Bugaboo only really encourages people to buy a twin stroller to be the Donkey. They don't want people buying the Kangaroo to be used as a stroller for twins. I get why they might feel that way. I understand what they're going for, but I do think that this is an important thing to cover in this video. So when I take my car seat adapter for 2 car seats, the overall width of the stroller doesn't change because it's 29 inches with how the adapter sits on it. Now, this is where it gets a little frustrating for me. If we put 2 car seats on the Donkey, and I am just going to show the Perry, and then I'm going to show the Kleck Ling, and I will explain why I'm showing these specifically in 1 second. Now if we look at the stroller with the 2 car seats sitting on here simultaneously, it actually does become wider. There is some confusion online about whether or not this stroller will fit through a standard doorway when you have 2 car seats on it. To be truthful, I tried to push it through my doorway. It did not really fit unless I was like lifting and kind of shimmying it up and around. I could sort of get it to go through, but what I would argue is that it would make more sense to simply remove one of the car seats if you were going through a standard doorway and push it through very slowly that way. And then once you got into where you needed to be, you could put that car seat directly back onto the stroller. Now, if you think about most places you're going, like a mall or some type of place with like a double opening door, this generally won't be an issue, but it is just something to be aware of. I do have a standard doorway for my store. This should theoretically fit through with the 2 car seats on it. It could, but it was so difficult, I don't think it was realistic. So I'm gonna say this is maybe a failure to push through a standard doorway with 2 car seats. I feel like you would need to remove one of the 2 car seats on there. And it's because they're 17.5 inches wide, so just like slightly wider than the door opening. If you buy a Kangaroo and buy a second seat, will 2 car seats fit on it? Bugaboo will tell you no, they do not. And they actually have a chart sewn onto the bottom of the basket. And it says these are the only configurations that you can use this product in. And they show all the different ways that you can use it. They do not show it with 2 car seats. So I called my rep. They said they don't do that because they want people to buy the Donkey if they're going to be planning on using 2 kids. Now, my argument there is that why wouldn't you let the consumer decide how they want to use the product? Sorry to say that. I know that that's maybe like a little out of line, but it would just seem to me that that would be the reasonable thing to do. So I have a secondary set of adapters here, and they do click on to both positions. And I am just going to take 2, let's actually, no, I want this one up high. This is What I'm choosing to do here is 2 reclining car seats. And I know that they're gonna be so mad that I'm even showing this because you're not supposed. Okay, sorry, I ran out of time. My camera cut me off. But as you can see, you can definitely put 2 car seats on the Kangaroo at the same time. Now again, Bugaboo says like, no, you cannot do this. If you were to call them and ask them, they would say no. But I'm just showing, I guess I'd have to do the reverse here just because these are reclining seats and I'm curious about like how that would work. But irrespective, you don't necessarily need reclining car seats, but it's just like a cool thing that you could do if you wanted to. You see I have the peg on here, I have the Cybex. And so you could theoretically, again, Bugaboo would tell you that it's not insurance tested this way, but just to kind of show, if you had your heart set on it and you wanted to just do car seats, because 2 bassinets definitely do not fit on here. I did try, they will not fit. The 2 car seats on paper, you know, they say that this won't work, but as you can see, theoretically could, you know, in a jam, an emergency, if this is all you had, I mean, you could do what you want. I'm just saying. But their whole argument was that they wanted to keep the donkey to be their option for 2 car seats on 1 frame. And in an effort to protect the donkey, which again, I'm not really sure what that exactly means, but in an effort to protect the donkey sales, they weren't going to sell this as an option for 2 car seats on it simultaneously. So I think that's the reasoning behind it. Again, it is their call, it's their product, but can you make your own dreams come true? You definitely can. So here I've got both seats reclined. I mean, again, this wouldn't substitute for like overnight sleeping, but if you didn't want to feel guilty, I mean, there's ways that you can parent. I'm just showing you how to live your dream, folks, okay? So, if you wanted that secondary set of adapters from Bugaboo, I think they are $59. Again, you shouldn't use them on there at the same time. It would just be so if you wanted an extra set in case you lost a set, or keeping it someplace else. But again, because I would get asked, I only think it's fair that I have the opportunity to at least show my viewers the different things that we show here at the store. And again, I'm not recommending to use it this way. I'm just explaining because the question would come up. Okay, last thing that I want to do is put single seats on each one of these when it's in single mode and fold it just so you guys can see that. Do they fold with the double seats on them? Do they fit in the overhead compartment when they're folded? These are questions I will undoubtedly get asked. No, it will not fit in the overhead in any way, shape, or form. You could gate check either one of these. So that's something, you can buy a bag for either one. Bugaboo makes stroller bags. I think they're like about 160 bucks, maybe 200, 199. I can't remember off the top of my head, but definitely an option. So the reason why I showed these car seats versus Nuna is that I just wanted to show either one of these has a single hand squeeze release if you are going to push them through a door. So that means that when you take the car seat off, it's easier than it is with Nuna. With Nuna, it is a 2-button pinch release to come off Bugaboo. Certainly not the end of the world, but just something to be aware of. Now we'll scoot this back into single mode, which looks really daunting, but it's actually not difficult at all. All of the pieces that are important for movement on Bugaboo are marked in white. It is a product that is color organized, which thank goodness makes it easy to demonstrate. We'll put the seat on. Now again, with this one, you would remove the tote before you fold it. I don't think you have to, but I would, just because I would have stuff in it. So to fold it, it just comes together like that, and it will stand when it's folded. Kangaroo, single hand release, like to get that mechanism going, and then theoretically folds up and stands when you've got your wheels set properly, which I definitely don't right now. Oh, maybe I do. Sweet. So you can see they're both definitely big when you leave the seats on them. I would absolutely remove the seats and then put them in my car, because 2 smaller things is easier to put in the vehicle than 1 big thing. But they both have that option to remove the seat. Stow that first, and then go ahead and get it back together. They both open up super easily. So, all right, if you have questions or you have comments, please feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching this super long video. I just really wanted to go over this with you guys. And yeah, like I said, I'm not endorsing any naughty behavior, but just kind of showing all the cool things they can do. And if you want to buy any of this, head over to my website, destinationbabykids.com. I have all of this on my website. I would love to sell it to you. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my other Bugaboo videos, and hopefully we will see you in our next video.